Alright folks, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video, and I know, it's another Yae Miko video, which I wish I wasn't talking about her again as well, right? To be fair, I'm okay, I like talking about her, but like not in this way, right? But the thing is, again, a lot of people are just looking at this unit and saying, well, she's fine and all, but is she really ever worth pulling for if you don't like the character? And the wide consensus at the moment seems to be no, which I generally tend to agree with, right? Again, if it's your favorite character, go for it, but if it's not, like, Yae Miko is, I don't think she's as bad as a lot of people say, but she's definitely not anything crazy, right? She's definitely not something that, you know, if you don't pull for, you will be regretting it for the ages. Bar, you know, if they ever give her some like treatment, like something like a Kokomi treatment or whatever, right? Where after release the unit, a few months later, you get a new set of artifacts that makes the unit much better, right? And that could very well be the case for Yae Miko as well, right? But it's very hard to see that there would be any artifact buff to Yae Miko that won't also buff something like a, you know, official or something, right? That does something rather similar, unless it just really focus on something like, for example, the amount of ease you use, right? Maybe that could be something that could differentiate her in that aspect with a, you know, new artifact, or something like, I don't know, that has to do with a lot of like energy recharge things or whatever, right? But again, that is definitely something to keep in mind, right? That being said, I do always feel like it's probably better to, if you are trying to pull for units, right? Pull for units that have, you know, that are fine now at the moment, right? That are much better now, that doesn't have to rely on a lot of future potential, right? So that being said, should Yae Miko be buffed? And by buffed, over here I do mean in the sense, should the character's foundational statistics, right, be changed, or the makeup of the character? And again, by that I don't mean, you know, if they add an artifact set in the future that makes it better, which I do think they will do it regardless. I think they will most likely give her an artifact set in the future, right? Even if they, you know, they do buff her or whatever, right? And that's definitely going to help, right? Whatever it could potentially be, again, that could be for another discussion in another day. But in terms of should Yae Miko herself get buffed, I would say it would be very nice to, but would they buff it is the more interesting part, because yeah, obviously I would like all the characters that I like and have be buffed, right? Even the very good ones. But does she really need one? At the moment, I would say probably, because of the fact that she is, you know, first of all, she is a 5-star character, and I would argue, again, in a lot of case scenarios, she would probably still perform better than something like official. But to be a 5-star character and still have similar performance to a 4-star character is slightly, you know, awkward. Not that that hasn't happened before. There are definitely a lot of 4-star characters that are just straight up better than the 5-star characters, right? There's a lot of ones, like, for example, Xingqiu is better than a lot of 5-star characters, right? Bennett, you know, one could say would be better than a lot of 5-star characters in the game as well. And the thing is, well, are they going to buff it, right? What are the chances of that happening? I don't see the chance of her getting buffed very high, just because the hallmark to like buffing a character is really like, it's really hard for it to happen because of all the, you know, legal issues regarding gacha laws and such, right? The only like big instance of that happening so far, I mean, there's been small tweaks here and there with the characters, but the biggest one obviously was for Zhongli, right? And Zhongli, Yae Miko is a very significant character, but Zhongli overall, if you want to account for all the other, you know, he is obviously a much more significant character, all right? And it really took a huge uproar for them to even, you know, buff Zhongli to begin with. And look, Zhongli's buff I thought was good. It was a good buff, but it wasn't like a very, like, it was like the changes weren't huge. There were small changes that made, I would argue, very big differences, but it wasn't like a, you know, overwhelming. They completely changed the makeup of the character. Could that potentially happen? Again, I'd say maybe, but again, I'd still lean towards maybe they won't be buffing her. But if they do, right? How would they buff her, right? In my opinion, there's a few ways you could go about this, right? There's a very lazy and easy, you know, one buff, which is just the ease, right? You have to do 3 of these. You have to do 3 of these. They take way too long. The easy, really easy way is just to, well, make it much, much faster, right? Cut the time, you know, to set these things in half or something, maybe, right? And because it's just that you have to set too many, and she's just on for an off-field DPS, right? She's on field way too much, so you have to, like, you need to triple, you know, E first, and then you have to Q, and then after Q, your E's are gone again. Then you have to reset them because your E serves 2 main purposes. One is being an off-field, you know, electro damage healing applicator, right? And then the other thing is to obviously increase the damage, overall damage of your Q. Those are the 2 things that it has to do, and at each time you want to do one of those things, right, it costs you 3 of these very pretty but also very slow twirls, right? Shoutouts to the twirls, but they take a bit too long. So the very lazy method would just be, you know, setting these much, much faster, right? If they really want to go nuts, they could give you like iframes on these to give it like an extra, you know, benefit to using them. So it's not just mostly a time waste when you're doing these, right? But I'd say those are relatively lazier buffs. I think what would be a bit more interesting is if there's just more on-field time for these E's, right? So maybe a buff where, for example, all right, you set 3 of these, right? You set 3 of these, it has a 4-second cooldown, and if you swap back to Yae Miko and then you put 1 down, it like resets their on-field time. So for example, once I get out of this this pond, right? So the thing with her skills, right, is also I need to level these up. Oh my god, I have a decent amount of these now. If you look at the attribute, it's 14 seconds on field time, which isn't bad. Which honestly, 14 seconds is not terrible. But the fact that after 14 seconds, you'd have to come back and do 3 of those again, which is another, you know, how fast is he? Like around a bit under 2 seconds, right? To cast 3 of these. It just feels like, oh, it's just, oh, you have a lot of time wasted just trying to cast these, right? And again, for not that much of a return, right? Again, like Fischl, for example, again, people keep on comparing her to Fischl. Again, I do think there are major differences between the units, but in this one case, they are rather similar, right? And in Fischl's case, all she does is just 1 E and then you swap, and then you're gone. You're out of there. Fischl, you just 1 E, boom, you're good. Or Q if you're, you know, using the other one. With Yae Miko, it's just much, much, much longer, and I think what would be better to make her more in line with Fischl, because if you first start a battle, you set 3, that's fine, right? It's the beginning of battle, everyone's trying to set up at that time anyways, but, you know, once you're done setting up, you know, you go into, like, the thick of the battle, you really don't have that much time to reset 3 every single time going in, so something like where, you know, if 1 goes out and then the other 2 have only, like, 1 or 2 seconds before they go out as well, you put up another one and then refreshes those 2, comes back to 14 again, all 3 of them. I think that would be a bit better, right? And, you know, if you count like a 1 or 2 seconds before they go away, you swap back to Yae Miko, put 1 down, and then it resets their on-field time. I think that would be pretty nice. And it's not like, you know, it makes her like incredibly broken to the point, you know, where she's basically just as fast as Fischl in terms of setting up her, which is in of itself a pretty ridiculous statement, honestly. But you still have a use for setting up 3, because, you know, if you want to relocate all your turrets, right, you still have to, you know, triple twirl somewhere else, right? Or if you use your Q, you still have to triple twirl, which again is still slightly problematic. So I think that could be a relatively easy solution that, again, doesn't change her that much, but I would say makes her a lot better, right? Something else would just be something as simple as just decreasing the energy needed for her Q, right? And all outside of energy, like for her Q, I also do think the cooldown for her Q is a bit too long, right? Like, yeah, it has a very, very you know, it generally shouldn't be that big of a deal because it takes you a while to get it recharged anyways. But with certain team comps, right, you could definitely get the recharges back relatively fast, especially if you're like a C1 Yae Miko, right? With a Radiant team, you should be able to get your Q up back relatively quickly. So, considering that to be the case, I think just decreasing the cooldown for the Q would also be really, really nice. That would be some like minor changes, right? I'm not saying implement them all, but like, you know, maybe 1 or 2 of them would definitely be really helpful. Those are some minor changes. If you want to talk major changes, I think a big major change would be not really changing any of that, but just turning her into a main damage dealer instead of a, you know, instead of a sub DPS, right? Instead of an off type damage dealer, you turn her into main damage dealer, which in this case, because again, she already has a lot of on-field time, so why not, I guess, in that case, take advantage of it, make it an actually decent, you know, on-field damage dealer, right? Since she's on the field that long anyways, so I guess that could be an option. Also, if she is on field a lot, that also, you know, helps the energy recharge issue, right? And all that other stuff. Just make her just scale her normal attacks a bit better or something, right? Or make it so that every time you set the turrets down, right, make it so that like it just does a bit more, right? Just make it so it does a bit more, right? When you set it down, it has like a, I don't know, like a shockwave, like an AoE shockwave sort of effect, right? So and does a bit of damage there. And then you could do her, yeah, again, as a main damage dealer. You could run something like, you know, Yae Miko with a Xingqiu or something like that for a, you know, electro charge main damage dealing option, right? Also in that case, it's not just the damage scaling of these, it's also to make these animations a bit faster, right? Because, you know, these animations do take a while, right? You know, especially their charge and all that stuff. Charge attack. So I guess those are some ideas, right? So again, like I mentioned before, I don't think the chance of her getting a huge buff is you know, very, very likely, right? I'd say even small tweaks here and there would be unlikely, but hey, if they do it, I would be very, very happy, right? Also, this looks so cool when it's rainy and a bit, you know, misty at night. That's so nice. Oh my god. Anyways, such a view. That aside, anyways, that's what this one, I guess. Hope you all generally guys think in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think on this, you know, topic as well. All right, like enjoy this video, subscribe to my channel for some more Genshin Impact content, and I'll see you guys in the next one then.